Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel, and today we have part 2 of our top 5 series, and for this video we'll be covering my top 5 breakout running back candidates. And just a quick side note, this is not the top 5 running backs in the NFL, but rather the top running backs looking to rebound or have a breakout season, and this series is limited to one rookie per list. That being said, let's get right into today's video. So our first running back on today's list, and one of my favorite running backs in the NFL, is Todd Gurley. And Todd Gurley set the league on fire in his first few seasons with the Rams, with a ton of highlight hurdles, jukes, spins, and his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield as well. In that time, he racked up over 5,000 rushing yards, 58 rushing touchdowns to go along with 2,100 receiving yards and 12 more scores through the air. Todd Gurley was looking like a top running back for years to come. That wasn't until the 2019 playoffs, more specifically against the Patriots in the Super Bowl, where Gurley only had 10 carries for 35 yards, an embarrassing loss. And in that game, that's when an old injury caught up with Gurley, and everyone started speculating if he was healthy or not, and that led to a down year in 2019. But Gurley still had 800 yards, 12 rushing touchdowns, 200 receiving yards, and 2 more touchdowns. While it's not a great year, it's still a good year. It's just not great for Todd Gurley standards, but it was enough for people to speculate that Gurley is quote-unquote washed and won't be the same player moving forward. And less than 2 years after signing a 4-year, $60 million contract with $45 million guaranteed, Todd Gurley was cut by the Rams, then later picked up by the Falcons, and looks to rebound back to his star status and prove that he's healthy and ready to work. Next up on today's list, we have Miles Sanders, and the 2019 Eagles had the definition of running back by committee with Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, and Boston Scott. Sanders, who is going into year 2, is looking to cement himself as Philly's future back and to be a top dual threat back in the league, rushing and receiving. And there's a lot of hype surrounding Sanders, who had 800 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, paired alongside with 500 receiving yards and 3 additional scores. And in an NFC East division that is full of running back talent, headlined by Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, and Adrian Peterson, Sanders was widely overlooked not only in the division but by tons of teams and fans. Sanders will be very interesting to watch, making a ton of highlight plays going into year number 2. And our third player on this list, and one of the most controversial ones, is Kareem Hunt. Hunt was drafted in the 3rd round by the Kansas City Chiefs and made an immediate impact, rushing for 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns, to go along with 455 receiving yards and an additional 3 scores through the air. But in 2018, Hunt's success from his rookie year wouldn't carry over after playing just 11 games before being cut due to a horrifying domestic violence situation. But in those 11 games, Hunt did make a really big impact with 800 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns, 400 receiving yards, and another 7 touchdowns. So after missing the last 5 games of the regular season, Hunt was then suspended 8 games of the 2019 season on top of that. So after missing nearly a year of game action, he missed 13 total games. Hunt came in behind Nick Chubb, obviously, and he did good but not great because of how well Nick Chubb was and how much of a breakout season that Chubb had. But Hunt ended the season with 179 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, as well as 285 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. And looking forward into the future, Hunt is still expected to be mainly used as a pass catcher and a complementary change of pace back to Nick Chubb, and another key component on a loaded Browns offense. But the Browns' only problem is that they have horrible coaching, so they have all this talent and no one to coach them. Coming in at number 2 on today's list, we have our second-year running back in Devin Singletary, who's going into year 2. Singletary shared a backfield with the ageless Frank Gore and accumulated 775 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, had 190 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground or through the air as well in limited action as a rookie, because nobody expected Frank Gore to be as good as he was. They didn't want to throw Devin Singletary in right away with as good as Frank Gore is performing, but Singletary still got a lot of playing time and made a lot of highlight plays in that time. So now that Frank Gore has moved on to yet another team in the last few years, Devin Singletary will be the feature back in Buffalo and should have a big impact on the AFC East, which is up for grabs with the departure of Tom Brady. So like Miles Sanders, Singletary was another overlooked running back as a rookie, and fans should expect a lot out of both of them going into year 2 as the primary backs on their teams, so they're going to be a ton of fun to watch. And at number 1 on my list, we do have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the rookie out of LSU. So coming off a great junior season at LSU, Clyde Edwards-Helaire tore up the SEC with 1,400 rushing yards, 16 touchdowns, And the most mind-boggling stat and the craziest stat coming out of this draft was that he had 36% of his runs either went for a first down or a touchdown, which is absolutely insane. And pairing that up with nearly 500 receiving yards made him a dangerous back on a potent LSU team. And Edwards-Helaire was my favorite running back coming out of this year's draft. And as a Raiders fan, I can confidently say that I did shed a few tears when the Chiefs took him with the 32nd overall pick. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is being compared to a bunch of different running backs, standing at a threatening 5'7", 210, draws a bunch of comparisons of Devontae Freeman and Maurice Jones-Drew, but with better receiving abilities. The reason I put Clyde Edwards-Helaire at number 1 on this list is because he was overshadowed by a bunch of other rookie running backs, but I believe Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to go to a super friendly offense, and he's going to have the biggest impact out of any of the other running backs on this list. So that will conclude today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned, as well as check out my channel for more of my top 5 lists in the near future. If you have any video suggestions that you want to see me cover, leave it in the comments down below, and have a great rest of your day.